Welcome to Civil Discourse. I'm Jamie Wojciechowski.
And I'm Marilyn Brown.
Inauguration anxiety. Um, you can lead us off. You were telling me you've been dealing with a lot of clients who have had a lot of anxiety around the inauguration. So what are people feeling?
Yeah, I've been doing this kind of work as a therapist for a long time, and this is like the first time that I've ever seen everybody as a whole just kind of collectively experiencing a lot of the similar symptoms of anxiety. And so people are just experiencing a lot of stress. People are reporting not being able to sleep, as the inauguration approaches and as we get closer to the reality of the transition from Barack Obama to Donald Trump. So, you know, I have clients ranging from, teenagers all the way up to people in their 60s. And so it's different kind of the impact of the anxiety and how people are personally experiencing it, but it's all coming from the same source. Which, as a therapist, people say to me a lot, oh, you listen to people's stressors all day. Is that difficult? But it's never really been a challenge. It's always been kind of, something that felt, it didn't feel, I didn't feel like I took on people's anxiety in that way that people might think that you would if you didn't really ever work as a therapist. And so people would ask me that and say, oh, no, it's not really like that. And this time I'm feeling it. I'm feeling anxious myself and feeling that, feeling kind of a struggle to keep myself grounded through, through being a vessel for other people to kind of express their own anxiety. So it's been interesting for sure.
Yeah, it's a weird topic for me just because I feel like for my own self-care, I've kind of separated myself from the inauguration.
Hmm.
I'm not actively I don't feel like I'm actively boycotting it. I'm
Right.
just not I just needed a break, and that was in the time period where I need it. And I kind of came back to it last night, and it was interesting to see all the things that are happening and the different reactions from different people. You had, it might even be higher last night, it was up to, I think, 60 Democratic senators or
Yeah.
representatives, I don't know if it was just senators, saying
Mm.
that they're boycotting and they're not going to attend. You had all the issues with the performers, and you had the big profile of the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. Someone decided not to do it and published her letter of resignation. Did you not see
Oh,
this?
wow. I see. I didn't see
Oh
that
yeah,
because I've been doing some of what you're doing, which is kind of turning off a lot of it. So I didn't even know about the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. I heard about the B Street band, the Bruce
yeah,
Springsteen cover band that pulled out, but I didn't
yeah.
hear.
And you had the same issue with the Rockettes where they were told they had to do it, and then, and I think, it changed now, and they were allowed to pick or choose if they want to do the event. And I haven't stayed on top of the Mormon Tabernacle Choir issue. My understanding was there's just one woman, but she released her resignation letter online, which
Okay.
then went viral.
Right.
So it's interesting because I also don't. I try to stay very centered and mindful, and I don't know how to feel about it because I don't feel within mindfulness. A lot of people talk about being present, and people often forget, or who haven't studied for a while or practiced for a while, that being in the present doesn't mean you ignore the past and the future. You use
Right.
it, but
Right.
it's you being in control. We say that often. It's you being able to pick and choose if you're in the past, in the future, or in the present.
Mhm.
And I look at the past and I just can't think of a time where there's been something similar to be able to draw from to know how to feel, because when we feel things we do it based on our conditioning and our experiences, and I don't know what to feel.
Right. Yeah, you're right. We have schemas for things and so we have context to kind of know how we're supposed to feel. And this is something that we don't have a schema for. We're not really sure, like you said, how to feel. And I think, you know, it's a challenge because I think for me, I'm able to connect to the mindful piece. Like, okay, I don't know how to feel, so I'm not necessarily anxious to a certain degree. Like you know, since he won the election and this last couple of months, I've been able to kind of be pretty present with that and, you know, think, okay, well, still don't know how to feel. Just gonna wait and see and kind of, and that's been effective so far. And this week I've noticed like I'm challenged with that because I almost kind of feel like at every turn there's more stuff going on. Like you said, when you kind of checked back in and went online and just saw all of these different things. And, you know, so I discuss it in my work. And then personally, you know, family, friends, everybody is feeling it. So it's so, I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, but it's constant right now. It's
Yeah.
nonstop. And I think
I,
that's the challenge is how do you kind of stay mindful and present when there's nonstop um, stimulation to kind of pull you out of that space.
yeah, and I feel like there's a lot of I feel there's different groups of reactions. There's people who are very excited for Trump to be president. There are people who are terrified, and then there's people who I think there's varying levels of this group of who are kind of detached. And they're detached for many different reasons. They're detached because they don't feel like they don't agree with a lot of things, but they don't think it's going to directly affect them.
Mm,
Or they don't understand or take the time to think. It's not that they don't understand, they just don't, they're busy and they don't take the time to consider how it's going to affect them.
right.
Or they just want to wait and see what happens. All these different things, but this group in the middle. And it's interesting to see those different groups react with one another because
Yeah.
there's normally we're used to in our partisan two party system, specifically in politics, we're used to there being two sides, and anyone who's not in those two sides is uninformed. Is kind of
Right.
the general idea. But
Hmm.
you're seeing these three distinct sides, and you're seeing how ingrained the partisanship is because all those three sides have gone to their corners and don't understand the other. Some a little more than others, and I'm making generalizations.
Hmm.
But you
Hmm.
see the people who are kind of stoic or kind of being patient about it being attacked by both sides. You see the people
Yes.
who are very emotional and upset about it being attacked by the both other sides. You see Trump supporters
Right.
being attacked by both other sides. So it's interesting to see, and it leads into, I don't want to necessarily go into it yet, but our the next topic,
Yeah.
which is criticism, because I think we as humans, and I don't know if it's learned or if it's just in our biology, we tend to lead with criticism.
Yes. Mhm. Yeah, definitely. And we'll go into that a little bit more, but I do want to say one thing for me personally that I think is really added to my feelings more of grief. I think, you know, the anticipation um, of Trump coming in is anxiety provoking on some level, but I think for me the harder part is just kind of seeing the end of the Obama presidency. You know, being a Black female from Chicago, that has meant so much, you know, to me, to so many people. And I think that's also it's this is it's like this is like on a lot of levels, his presidency is one of the most meaningful that we've seen. And to kind of put it right next to this other level of anxiety, I think that's actually what's really kind of adding to the intensity of it for people. It's not just we don't know what's going on. We're worried about Trump, but there's also this very real grief, um, of losing a president that I think just personally has meant so much to so many people. I that's when I start thinking about that. That's the part that like starts to like make me feel emotional. And I've had moments of like tearing up this week, and it's been when I've seen videos of like Michelle Obama and watching her birthday and things like that just have been a challenge. So I think that that's part of what's, yeah, adding to the intensity of this
Yeah,
moment for a lot of us.
I think it's hard for me to just in staying mindful, not in being upset or frustrated with people, but in trying to encourage them and understand. For me is, it seems like, and everything you're saying, it's, I feel like a lot of people in the emotional state they're in, it's moving to a place of defeat. I think a
Mm,
lot of people feel very defeated,
hmm.
and it's for all the reasons you just explained, and it's difficult then to really in this climate lift people up and do the things we need to really, as progressives,
Hmm.
challenge.
Yeah.
I don't even like the word challenge, but make sure that our voices are heard, because
Right.
if it's just
Hold our government to account. Hold, yeah. And I think you're right. I think that that is creating a space of hopelessness on a certain level. And I also think that's not that people move through that as well. And I think that that's kind of part of the grief process.
right.
And is that depression stage and feeling, oh my God, is this really happening? Like this is awful. And we go there. And I think, we want to pull people out of that and hope, let's mobilize, let's get to work. And I definitely can connect to that and understand, that aspect of it as well. But I think like we have to, be able to allow and validate people's experience. And that's how they're able to turn that grief into positive action and into some sort of, mobilization.
Yeah,
It's like
the
if
hard.
we avoid it and we say, well, give them a chance and nothing's happened yet and it's no big deal and don't be sad about Obama. You knew they were leaving anyway. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like we don't, but that kind of happens. And I think we kind of tend to have this idea in American culture of just like suck it up, move on, keep it moving. But like we need to feel stuff too, and that's
Yeah.
important. And when we feel it, that's when a lot of the work happens. And I think like, you see things, and we've talked about this before, but you see people's art getting more vocal about certain
Hmm.
things, and you see people's writing getting more starting to challenge things more, and you see that kind of coming out of this stress and anxiety and grief. And so I think, if we can continue to kind of allow ourselves spaces to talk about and share and find some sort, and for everyone to find some sort of an outlet through their art, through their creativity, through, connecting with their community, I think we can really use this time to like really, really move ourselves forward in a way that we haven't since like the civil rights movement.
Right. And I think the thing that's difficult about it, at least for me, and staying mindful with it, is when it seems like uh, a political movement, which is just progressivism in general, is kind of having a shared emotional experience, when the whole group is kind of, I mean, and not everybody is, but when a large portion of it is all having the same, or is in the same stage of grief, it's easy for the the powers that be, the government, to manipulate,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
because they know, oh, they're in this moment of grief where they're all defeated. Let's do all this stuff because no one's mobilized
Right.
before. So
Right.
that's the part that
That's
gets
true.
a little challenging for me, as we want people to have that space to be able to heal and move forward. But
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, we have a system that takes advantage of that.
Very
So,
true. That's very true. It's like we have to be able to like grieve and like stay woke at the same time. You know?
right.
Yeah.
And I feel like that comes into it's in the I think that is mindfulness in itself is the way you get
Yes.
out of that in the productive way is through mindfulness, because if you were leading with this is I'm feeling defeated, let me understand why, you would end up coming up with solutions as opposed to not knowing where to go next. You would be
Right.
saying, "Oh, if I did this, this, and this, I could help this cause, which
Mhm.
people are fighting against, and that's why I'm upset," or
Yeah.
whatever it is.
You're very right. It's when we get mindfulness teaches you to be curious about your emotions. Like that really pisses me off. Why? What is it about that that upsets me so much? And that's where that's where you find the things that you personally connect to that
Right.
mean something that, you can actually do some work and affect some change. But I think you're right on that mindfulness really is about not not avoiding your emotions, like experiencing them and getting really curious and like looking at them and looking at them from a non-judgmental place, but just being able to kind of use them for information.
Yeah. And I think it's important to remember too, just going on people who are feeling kind of helpless and defeated, who want to be productive and to be doing things to create change that they believe in. And an important thing to remember is to really sit with yourself and think about what you care about most, because I think a lot of people get overwhelmed, especially in the politics, with just how vast it is. They get overwhelmed with the environment and the racial aspects and the economic aspects and the foreign policy, and it's so overwhelming. And if every person just picked one of those areas, that they were not even like one part of each one of those areas,
Right. Yeah.
and found a organization that was actually creating change for that, or fighting back against whatever you don't believe in, or whatever it is, we would actually be creating change like crazy, because we'd be
Right.
mobilized and these grassroots organizations would have so much power. But the powers that be have, they know that if they overwhelm you, they're going to be able to manipulate more.
Right.
So
That's true.
there, through mindfulness, we can break out of that.
Yes. Yeah. I think you're right that we can break out of that and also being aware of just what we're consuming, because I think
Right.
that adds to it. Like that fuels the desire to want to worry about everything or to try to get involved with everything. It's like we have to kind of be um, mindful of what we're taking in, what we're listening to, what we're watching, and just it kind of goes back to how we actually started this discussion, and take a step back when we need to, so that we can focus on affecting change where it's most important, rather than just kind of getting overwhelmed with trying to stay informed with every nuance of the issues on a daily basis.